Fly, back, breast, free. A Percabeth Club Swim Team Alternate Universe Fanfiction, Part 2. You're whipped already, Percy laughed while he capped Jason. The blonde scowled at him. Oh, like you're any better, Jason snapped at him. Percy snickered as, well, he really couldn't deny that. It had taken not even 3 minutes for Percy to be hooked onto Annabeth. Mostly he was intrigued that she hadn't even realized who he was. He prayed it was because she didn't even care about it, and that ended up being correct. She was snarky and sarcastic, almost as much as he was. Percy couldn't help the fact that he was attracted to strong personalities. After all, Rachel had quite a head on her shoulders. It was his type. And blonde. He definitely had a thing for blondes. At least I scored a date, Jason laughed as they lined up in their lanes. Percy frowned at him. I highly doubt that she's as romantic as Piper seems to be, Percy replied. Indeed, Annabeth's friend and Jason's new love interest had a reputation of being a boy magnet. Most every guy on their team in their age group had liked her at some point, or was untroubled by the aspect of dating her, at the very least. Annabeth, however, she was a new name to him. No guys had really talked about her and her golden strands of hair, or her appealing smirk and adorable eyebrow raise. Percy was genuinely wondering why. Are you daydreaming? Jason reached his hand over and thunked him on the head. Percy laughed loudly and they both began to jump up and down, slapping their muscles. You know, as swimmers do. It totally didn't look weird. Oh, it's on, Percy grinned. When Percy hit the wall, he thought he was going to die. His lungs were burning. But then again, it was supposed to feel like that. He had given it his all. The timer, who just happened to be his best friend Grover, grinned and kneeled down to tell Percy his time. 1.15 seconds cut. Nice job, dude. Grover sat back down as Percy tried to process. He couldn't believe it. In all honesty, the event had felt insanely slow, but it was in fact fast. Percy would have sputtered and spoken if he had actually had the breath. But he didn't. Because, he had used it all while swimming. The announcer announced to the flyover starts, and once they were in the water, Percy pulled himself out of the water. He was still breathing deep from the event and basically collapsed onto the floor. Jason and Grover laughed wickedly as Percy groaned to peel himself up and off. Some friends you are, he grumbled. Jason began to drag him off the moment he had grabbed his towel. I'm taking you to Piper and Annabeth. Look, just be grateful, will you? At once, Grover began laughing. Hard. You're gonna get him killed if you don't let him dry off first, Grover said with a shake of the head. Percy's eyebrows raised in interest. Wait, are you friends with her? He asked. Grover didn't respond. He was, a bit preoccupied with doing his job and timing. How ridiculous. Yeah, we've been friends for a while now, Grover said easily. Percy wiped away at the water that had spilled over when he took off his cap. Really? He said excitedly. Grover looked at him and began dying of laughter. Again. You want to date her, don't you? Grover said teasingly. Percy shook his head, scandalized. How dare his best friend know him so well and call him out? No, I don't. Percy crossed his arms and pouted. Jason and Grover laughed at his expense. Sure you don't. Dude, it's fine. She's a pretty awesome person and I've known her since 7th grade, Grover said, watching the swimmer in his lane carefully. Really? Percy asked, intrigued. Grover nodded. She's partially homeschooled now, but she used to go to our school full time, Grover explained. Percy's jaw dropped. Hold up. He had been going to school with a blonde-haired, sassy goddess and never realized? And Grover knew her and never bothered to introduce them? That was so not cool. Rude. So rude. Why is she homeschooled? Jason asked, voicing Percy's own thoughts. She's too smart and they don't have high enough classes for her. So she takes some of the classes in school, mostly extra classes in PE, and the rest she does at home online with the community college. She technically can graduate because she has enough credits and just needs to get in PE, which would be easy, but she likes being with friends in high school, Grover explained. Percy wanted to melt to the floor. There was a catch, of course. Percy couldn't come by a practically perfect person with no other suitors without some terrible caveat. Clearly, Annabeth was too smart for him. He was barely pulling B's in his classes, much less ready to graduate like her. Stop moping, Percy. She's not the type to just use grades against a person. She's a nice person when you get to know her. She's just a little scary. Grover shuddered. Martial arts, man. She's good at it. The blonde-haired boy clapped Percy on the back. You've chosen a tough one, haven't you? He said with a smirk. Percy groaned and buried his head in his hands. Before the event, Percy had a hopeful feeling that, maybe something would happen. Perhaps something would work out. But now he knew all the odds were very much stacked against him. Come on. Jason began to drag him to the girls. Percy protested. Only weakly, though. You were feeling so good about this, Jason muttered. Percy scoffed. Yeah, well, that was before I found out that she was insanely smart and scary. Why would she want to date a struggling C and B student like me with basically no signal in my brain to stop doing dumb things? Percy whined. Jason rolled his eyes. You're being dramatic. Grover said she's nice, and you guys hit it off pretty well. Percy still panicked, so that really didn't do anything. Now, Percy Jackson was never considered, let's say, shy. A shy person, really. Awkward? Sure. Confused? Very. Shy? Not normally. But right now, he was panicking over two things. One, Annabeth was way out of his league. Two, she was getting for a relay and, oh my god, Percy was going to faint. He wasn't normally the type to ogle. That wasn't polite. His mother had taught him better. But he couldn't take his eyes off her. How could someone look so good in a swim cap and goggles? It was a mystery. Because it's a swim cap and goggles. There was practically no way to look good. Good job, Annabeth said when she walked past. I never realized how fast you really were. Percy gaped at her. Thanks. Good luck, he choked out. Annabeth gave him a small smile. Thanks. She sighed. I hate being Anchor, she muttered while walking away. Turning back, Jason and Piper had matching smirks. You're into her, Piper started. There was no question, and Percy was so shocked he couldn't even deny it. Not that he even would have. That would be lying, and he doesn't lie. He's scared. He thinks Annabeth is way too out of his league, Jason supplied. Percy whacked him, shouting, Dude! Jason looked back at him as if to say, What? It's true. Not surprising. Well, whatever. I can tell you this. You are exactly what Annabeth wants in a guy. But honestly, she's not very good at the whole relationship thing. At that, Percy's brain, just frizzled out. He was what? Jason and Piper's conversation became a faraway noise. Perfect, he's an idiot too. We've got our work cut out for us. We should get them their own table at Olive Garden. That actually wouldn't be a bad idea. Percy shook his head and finally came back to earth. So, she could like me? He said excitedly. Piper looked at him and let out a laugh. I can't see how she could not, Piper laughed. Percy felt like fist pumping, or maybe racing another event. He had the energy for it. Piper stood up and obediently, the boys followed her. Let's cheer for her. And they did. And wow, was Annabeth fast. She tore through the water with so much power. It was insane that her lean frame was so strong. Wow, Percy said in awe while she was swimming back. And starstruck, Jason laughed. The relay was soon over, and Piper floated to Annabeth's side. We're done. What about you guys? The brunette girl asked. Jason and Percy exchanged a look. We're done. Piper beamed. Great. Olive Garden it is, she said, excitedly skipping off and dragging Annabeth once she had all her bags in hand. Do we follow or... Percy asked. Jason just looked as lost as he did, but they quickly caught up with the girls. I guess. By the grace of God, an Olive Garden was down the block from the pool. It definitely got good service. Whoever had put it there was either a swimmer themselves or a marketing genius. Because, okay, everyone goes to Olive Garden after a meet. We should probably split up from Jason and Piper. It would really suck to be intruding on their date, Annabeth said to Percy. He nodded in agreement. Odds were, Jason was going to put on a heavy show for Piper, and truth be told, he did not want to be around that. There was a slight worry in the back of his mind about eating dinner with Annabeth alone, but there was a bigger part that was screaming about... that was still screeching about that specific thing. I heard you go to my school. Percy started awkwardly. Annabeth looked up from the menu. Oh, you go to Goody too? I'm only partially there, she explained. Percy swallowed. She was so calm and collected. Was he the only one freaking out here? I heard. Grover told me. He's one of my best friends, Percy explained. Annabeth raised a brow at him. Oh, so you're the famous idiot best friend, she said with an amused tone. Percy's face went red. What did he say? He inquired with a grin. Annabeth was very easy to talk to, and that really helped his nerves. Like, a lot. Well, he's certainly told me a lot about you, including your breakdown over baby Dory. Now that I think about it, the towel's quite fitting, she teased. Percy made a mental note to choke Grover next time he saw him. Just let me tell you my side of the story, he said with a laugh. Annabeth chuckled. Go right ahead. Percy could barely register the time passing. Sure, the clock had said 2.5 hours, but it only felt like 10 minutes to him when he chatted with Annabeth. You are a gift from the gods, Percy deadpanned when Annabeth explained how she convinced the school board to lower the weight of finals on their overall grade. Testing is literally throwing up information. It barely means anything, she said, easily brushing off his praises. You certainly saved my grades, Percy admitted. Annabeth tilted her head in confusion. Good God, she looks so cute. Academics aren't really my thing. Reading and paying attention are really hard, he said in a quiet voice. I get that. School is honestly a terrible environment, she said with a laugh. Percy shook his head. No, I have ADHD and dyslexia, so honestly, my grades are terrible, he muttered. He looked down, wanting to avoid the super genius of the school's eyes. That's not your fault. You're still working hard and you're trying, she said kindly. You're also not alone. I have both too. Percy looked up to see her smile in a very comforting and pretty way. Annabeth definitely meant that in a reassuring way. But in all honesty, it made Percy want to slam his head onto the table in front of him. Only there was also pasta on the table, so he didn't do that. Instead, he buried his face in his hands and groaned, much to Annabeth's confusion. Sorry, it's just... You're really out of my league, and it's killing me, Percy admitted in a muffled voice. Annabeth looked at him blankly. What? She asked. You're all smart, and you know what you're doing, and you're really fast and hilarious and just so out of my league. Annabeth laughed slightly. Are you talking about relationships? Percy swore he could see her cheeks flush pink through his finger. He grumbled a maybe. She began to laugh for real. Okay, for one, relationships don't have leagues, and even if there were, I still don't care about it. 2, I don't know what kind of crack you're on to make you think this way, she said teasingly. Percy motioned to her aggressively. You're so on a different level. You swim really fast, and you're insanely smart, and the prettiest person I think I've ever met, snarky beyond words, and oh my god, I don't think I've ever fallen for a person this quickly, and all I want to do is ask you on a date, but... He sighed in defeat. Okay. Annabeth was definitely blushing now. I wouldn't say no, she said suddenly shy. Percy's brain stopped computing. You wouldn't? He said. A smile began to grace his face. Annabeth rolled her eyes but smiled anyways. Why don't you ask me to confirm? She said. Percy scoffed. Okay, pushy, he teased. Do you want to go on a date with me? Yeah, I do. Really? I'm as sure as you love Finding Nemo. It is a good movie, Percy defended. He couldn't wipe that stupid smile off his face. Not that he was even going to try. She had said yes. To a date with him. Percy Jackson, so-called loser of the grade for 3 years straight. Nancy, she was really mean. If you smile anymore, your face might just burst, Annabeth teased, poking his cheek. Percy swatted her hand away. You only have you to blame, he said in a sing-song voice. Screw the swim meet with results that had yet to come out. Percy had already won everything.